The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody that's out there. We see you coming in. This is Kim O'Brien, and we will start shortly. You are at the right spot if you wanted to learn about the AssessBEST CANNEX new features that are coming on board soon. And we'll be back with you when we have a large group here today. So when we get a mass of people that we think is critical, we will start the broadcast. So talk to you soon. Hello, everybody. This is Kim O'Brien. Just to let you know, we're going to start very soon. People are still jumping on board. We've got a lot of attendees to get in. So just give us another 30 seconds or so and we'll start. Okay, I know everybody's got a busy Friday. Good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you are in this great United States. And this is Kim O'Brien here with AssessBEST. And here joining me today is AssessBEST's Kelly O'Brien. Kelly, welcome. And Kelly must be on mute, kids. And we also have Gary Baker, president of CANNEX, with our exciting announcement. And Gary, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Kim.
So let's get started, everybody. So before we go, I have to do my soapbox. Sorry, those of you who know me know I have to do my soapbox. But we are under an impartial conduct standard, that we are under a rule that requires you to act with prudence, due diligence, loyalty, and care. And that's the transitional rule. The good news is we get to function under the 8424 for the FIAs and the VAs, as a matter of fact. And we're not under that onerous BIC. But we are still under the impartial conduct standards, and so we really have to make sure we're compliant with those standards. And that's what AssessBEST does, And more importantly, now with CANNEX, you can show all your work. So it's a beautiful partnership, and we're really thrilled to be here with CANNEX. If you're not aware that AARP has come out with a new questions to ask financial advisors, and they worked with the NASAA, the National Association of Security Administrators of America, and they to build this questionnaire. And these questions are these are just a few of them. There's about, I've done the questionnaire. It's about 15, but these are the ones that I think are more important to our world. And will you provide a written analysis of my, they're asking these people to ask this question, are my returns guaranteed? Is our relationship a best interest or a suitability relationship? They're asking people to ask that directly. And how are you compensated? These are going to be questions that AARP, with a pretty big reach, and the NASAA, with a pretty limited scope on investment side, are asking Americans to ask you, those on the call today, or your advisors if you're an IMO or firm RIA, BD. So those are there. It's out there is the most important point with AARP. And then, of course, we also have, just to jump back, we also have the Scottrade issue that just came out, where the state regulator from Massachusetts, the security regulator, is suing Scottrade for best interest violations because they did not, quote unquote, turn off their incentive trips. And this is a significant development because it's the first time non-DOL is enforcing the DOL rule. And even though a lot of us have heard that the DOL is not enforcing, because during the transitional period, they really want people to act towards compliance, to move towards compliance, other regulators are saying, we don't care. We're jumping in and we're going to start suing. So you have that going on. In addition, of course, you have the NAIC work on their own best interest standards. I'm working on that committee right now. It's an awful first draft. We don't like a lot of the parts of it, so we're going to be working very diligently on that. And then you have 6 states that have come out with their own best interest requirements: New York, Nevada, California, Colorado, Vermont, and what's my 6? I forget my 6, but you can find that out. If you want it, just email me. But we have states coming out with their own. So fiduciary is here to stay, and we've got the solution for you. Because Fred Reich, who writes a lot, this is article number 77. I think he's up over 80. I only have about 56, so he's beaten me. But the article, he says, is, it's about a prudent process. The process is the requirement, and you need reputable software to evaluate, in his words, the investments. We believe it's the insurance side of the balance sheet, but it is about the process, and that's what we're here to talk to you about today, is the wonderful synergy and seamless application between AssessBEST and CANNEX. So we have the SOS system going on in AssessBEST. And if you're a broker 663 or a 7, you have a financial institution already in place. And right now, during the transitional rule, you don't need a financial institution because we don't have that BIC requirement under the rule. Some financial institutions may be requiring it on their own, but if you're an insurance-only agent, you've got bupkis. You've got nobody above, financial institutions. So you need an SOS. You need a life preserver of your own. And that's what we deliver: sales, oversight, and supervision. The system does it. Now with CANNEX, you've got the analysis tool that will also show your work, show your due diligence and prudence in determining a product recommendation. And that's what we provide. On the sales sides, we uncover the gig. What is the gig? The guaranteed insurance gap, whether it's a protection gap, income endpoint, income for retirement, legacy income, or they don't have enough to cover their medical expenses. We uncover the gig, and then you work towards a guaranteed insurance solution. And this is an important thing I wanted to say. One of the biggest issues that I had when I started this process was to find a path for independent distribution, that they could continue to operate under the DOL rule without too much of a hiccup in their lives. But what was very important to me was to make sure that we didn't prescribe a product for you. We didn't take the advisor out of the room and prescribe products or even product types based on an algorithm input. And that's one of the reasons we chose CANNEX. The second major reason we chose CANNEX is because of their reputation for accuracy and the confidence in their data. But the other reason is that it is an analytical tool you can use, but it doesn't prescribe what you recommend. It's your analysis, your research that you can use to, one, show your work, but also to make a determination for your client. The oversight is obviously all the reporting activity we provide on AssessBEST. Also, CANNEX provides a very strong reporting capability, your source of funds documentation, data storage, and cybersecurity. And then on the supervision side, of course, you have we can restrict carriers if the supervising entity requires that, or we do not have to. We're very flexible. It's how you are set up. If you're an individual advisor out there and you want a limited carrier selection because you just like to operate that way, we can do that. If you're an advisor out there that wants to look at everything in the CANNEX system, you can do that as well. Very flexible. We have a fully compliant 8424 disclosure that we worked with our ERISA lawyers to develop. We're very pleased with it. We also have, of course, the CANNEX analysis system and their reporting. And we have a free fiduciary and suitability training course, as well as what we're going to be introducing this summer, which is the VIP mark. And that is a verified insurance professional or verified insurance planner, depending on your practice. And we will verify your credentials, and you get to use the mark with your clients to let them know that everything about you has been verified and your licensing is in good order, and you're a good egg, basically. So here's the process. What's going on? This is a BD slide. This is the old slide, Kelly, just point of order. But this could be whatever is the firm. It's BD, RIA, or IMOs. And the advisor actually goes into the AssessBEST system and makes an assessment, comes out with an assessment in the red, and goes over to the CANNEX system and looks at the different analytical tools that CANNEX has for every product line that you need. FIAs, MIGAs, SPIAs, DIAs, and variables if you need those. You look at that, you come back over, and you go back into the system, you make a recommendation in the AssessBEST system, and then we will be introducing a direct e-application functionality to eBIX that'll go directly to the carrier. So you have your three-step process. This is the compliant piece of impartial conduct standards. You assess their goals, their risk tolerance, their diversified plan needs. Now with CANNEX, you analyze product recommendations and demonstrate your reasonable compensation, and then you advise what you think is the best product opportunity for your client to meet those needs, concerns, and goals. So let's jump into the system. Let's get under the hood. That's what you're all here for, right? Not my soapbox. So what's going to happen at the IMO firm level, IMO, BD, RIA, and we have everybody in the above in our system, using our system today. Predominantly IMOs, but we do have a few RIAs and we have a number of BDs. So what you're going to do at the firm level is you will be able to go out to CANNEX right here and click, and you can use the CANNEX system for any AssessBEST advisor or any other advisor you choose. We are not limiting you in any way to AssessBEST users only. So you will be able to jump out to the CANNEX system and do whatever analyses, and you can pull your advisors to you by offering your marketer's expertise on product knowledge and product selection. Or if you're an individual advisor that is using the AssessBEST system, what you will do is when you come into your Open Assessments landing page, you will click on your CANNEX analysis feed if you have AssessBEST Pro, which includes that feed. And then when you click on that, what's going to happen is you will be taken directly out to your system. And you will jump right over to the CANNEX system fluidly. You will not need to add a new password, anything else. It'll go right to your CANNEX feed. And during phase 1, you will need to populate this information. Most of it is discretionary, I guess is the right word, or optional, Gary. But some of it is very necessary. Obviously, you want your name, you want your state. Premium is going to be a critical driver, and the income start date. So what we did is, just to jump back to our presentation quickly, how you will get there. Oh boy, go ahead. So once you click that, you will come up with this nice drop-down screen, and you will be able to pick the different types of areas in the CANNEX system that you want to look at, whether it's an FIA analysis, which is where we're going, or you want to look at the FIA rates, par rates, all the product specs out there. You want to look at MIGA rates. You want to look at the SPIA, DIA annuity quotes, or if you happen to need a variable annuity, this is where you'll make that selection. And then once you're in there, we happen to be in the FIA analysis system, and we've got everything filtered. We found with Mary O'Sullivan that she has a $600 income gap. Let's just look at her again in the system. There you go. Wait for that to load. So what we found with Mary O'Sullivan is that she has a $600 a month income gap based on our information that we got from her. We understand her net worth. We understand her financial goals. Those are all gathered from us by Mary. And we found that she has a $600 a month income gap. And she's also highly exposed she's, I think, 63. And she's highly exposed in at-risk products. And her protection gap right now is about 200,000. So we really do need to move some of that. Now, this is a real live person. Her name's been changed to protect the innocent, but we know from this is one of the points about the algorithm is you can't get this qualitative information from an algorithm. We know from talking to Mary that she is most concerned about her income. And we also know from her taking our risk tolerance score that she's defensive. That's the second to the lowest, the second to the least risk tolerant. We have very defensive as the last category. So she's very risk intolerant, and she has a strong concern over her 600. And for this risk intolerance level, she's way overexposed in the market. We know that about her. Okay, so we go back into the CANNEX system, and how we do that, again, simply is coming from the open assessment, and there will be a CANNEX feed right here that will look like that. And we'll go back into the CANNEX system, and we'll put in the parameters that we want to look for. She wants her income start date to be in 2022. We learned that in the assessment phase. We know what her birth date is and that she's female, obviously. So we're going to submit that. Okay, so here we're in the CANNEX system. And that looked great. So across the top here, you have all these wonderful different ways in which you can conduct your analysis. And we happen to know Mary is most concerned with maximizing her income stream. So we're going to simply look at the best average annual income. What do we mean by that? Well, let's see. We'll click. So the average level income received per year based on a wide variety of market situations. market deviation is Monte Carlo, the variability of the, and we'll have Gary talk about this in more detail, but this is most important to Mary. And so we get the highest, and let's just, because we want to look at it, let's look at the lowest. Okay, good to know. That's the range. And again, these carriers can be restricted or not restricted based on your own parameters. Now, we were giving this demo for an advisor the other day and getting his feedback, and he said, you know, Kim, I'm always going to the minimum guarantee. That's where I go. I don't promise anything over it. I always drive to the minimum guarantee, and I want to always look at their best promised number. And I went, okay, well, that can be done. This is sorted at this point by that average annual income. But we can sort it by that minimum payment. And here you have Protective Life that comes in. I was talking to Gary earlier in our practice session, and I thought this is interesting that they're very aligned in terms of their average annual and their minimum. Whether that's good or bad, you decide. We don't know. You know you know what's best for your client, and so that's what's the beauty of why we love the CANNEX system is it gives you the data, gives you the tools for you to make the determination on what's important, what configurations and what of the different pieces of information, the different data that's really relevant. When we're on another call, someone said, you know, I don't even I have a client that doesn't have an income need. What do you say about that? Well, then they might have a death benefit need. They want to make sure they maximize the death benefit value. So let's look at that. Somebody wants to know, you know, what is this actual cost to me? I've heard these things are expensive and high cost. And okay, let's look at the average economic value. What do we mean by that? Well, we mean exactly this. And that's a nice tool if someone asks the question on cost, or now we have the average fees. I want the product with the lowest fee. If you remember, our maximum payment was 15. Let's call it 16 there. Also happens to, you know, this annual fee is there, and the 16 is there. So you can do all of this analysis and make a decision on what you want to recommend for your customer. So we've decided. Oh, go ahead, Gary. Jump in.
Yeah. So what I just want to say is that we have training available and ways to use this analysis, and what Kim has essentially walked you through was the ability to look at all the trade-offs from each of the products, depending upon where they choose to be competitive in certain situations. So for Mary, given her age and when she wants to start income, these results are come out as a result of that. And what you can show is then, as Kim did, is which products are more geared to providing an upside income versus those that are really more focused on providing the guaranteed minimum. When you do look at fees, I mean, these are explicit fees in the FIA, but this is a little bit different than just disclosing the fees in the context of the DOL. What we're really showing is what the value you're getting from the benefit versus the explicit fees that you may be also charged in the contract. And what you often will find is that the products maybe that may have a higher fee may in fact provide a higher benefit. So really, at this point, you're really making a decision of whether or not you want to buy a Ford Taurus or a Cadillac, depending upon whether or not the client's going to be very much focused on cost, or if they're going to be really focused on value of what they're going to get out of the contract. So there's a lot you can do with the tool, and certainly that's some of the training and help and guidance we provide separately if you were to use this tool.
Excellent. That was an excellent point. And you know, what I have found is it's very intuitive, it's very easy to use, but they have the background on what some of these trade-offs mean and how you can utilize it, they being CANNEX. and it's wonderful that they have that training opportunity. So let's just say we're done here. We've decided that Mary O'Sullivan really needs the highest average annual income, and so we're going to make a recommendation based on that, and we're going to go into that recommendation, and we're going to make sure that those two products that we think are going to meet her main objective of income are in the recommendation. And we've identified, this is where your compliance checkpoints come in, making sure that we've met the objectives. We've attended to both of the gaps that that were identified by the system. We can add the compensation if we choose. It depends on whether it's qualified or not qualified, or it depends on whether you want to do it here or in a disclosure report. Your call. You can add it here just for your own benefit, and we'll show you how that works here. And so what we do, as I always love to tell, and this is my big conversation with the DOL, is we always show that compensation over a surrender period automatically calculates, but because we're selling insurance products after all, we also calculate it over mortality. And then you can print that, and this is what we love, is that you can decide what information you want on the report. And let's say we don't want compensation right now because it's either non-qualified money, or we're going to show that compensation in the final disclosure with the final recommendation. That's your call. You can make that call. And we print it. And here we have it. And so now this is her assessment and recommendation report, and what we're hearing from everybody is they love the simplicity. They love it. It's easy to understand. It's not over complex. Here are their products that we recommended. You see, this is where the compensation would have shown up had we clicked on that. And we've got it, and we're all good. So I'm going to jump back to, we've got the recommendation, we're good to go. We're going to meet with Mary and let her know what we think she should do based on all of our analysis. And we've gotten everything we're required to do as a fiduciary in the assessment and recommendation report. We've identified her needs, her concerns. We've made a recommendation using an analytical tool that is reputable. I will also say it has a, Gary, what's the word again, from a major law firm?
Opinion letter.
It has an opinion letter on its compliance with the DOL rule. So, you know, you couldn't be in a more protected space, and make sure, what I think is, make sure your recommendation is protected. And then, of course, if it is qualified money, we have a great disclosure report. It's fully compliant. We had it written by ERISA and DOL lawyers, so it's all good to use if you need it. So I want to jump over, because Gary's going to give you the bigger, broader, smarter view of the CANNEX system. Go ahead, Gary.
Sure, thanks, Kim. Yeah, so just to provide just a little bit of overview of what we do provide for people on the phone who may not know us and what we do. But in the U.S. market, what we do is we've supported for some time now the quotes and illustrations for income annuities. It's been the core of the business for almost 40 years, both in Canada and the U.S. And in the U.S., we essentially work with all the the major carriers, if you will, and on the distribution side, over 300 firms, businesses, whether they're IMOs, broker dealers, banks, that have a direct or indirect reach on our pricing and analytics of upwards of 350,000 advisors or agents in the market. We also support the institutional marketplace, that whether it's 401k plans directly or their rollover operations relative to the use of annuity products. But what we do is what we've done over the last few years have expanded our footprint a bit across all annuity categories, just given the demand in the market for the type of service that we do provide. So we work directly with insurance carriers to ensure that we program all the rules, parameters, and formulas correctly in representing their products through our apples-to-apples engine, if you will. And so beyond income annuities, that also includes the fixed rates that you'll find either in regular fixed rate annuity products, fixed index products, and also those fixed rates and DCA rates that you would find in variable annuities. Because some clients have a need to kind of look at that information. And again, the rates that we do provide in those tables are fed directly by the carriers and guaranteed into the system since they load it in and test it themselves. But then really where we expanded over the last couple of years and even more notably since this last fall and what we just showed you as part of this demonstration was providing hypothetical illustrations for index annuities and variable annuities. We've also have the capability to also provide quotes and illustrations for living benefits that you'll now find on MIGA products. But in the context, again, of what we're showing you here, specifically as far as a big chunk of the market, in whether it's a variable annuity or an index annuity, our methodology and some of the information that Kim showed you in our tools allow you not only to do a comparative analysis or, if you will, comparative illustrations amongst these more structured products, if you will, or even a little bit more complicated products because you're packaging multiple benefits into the same contract, that this methodology that we use is also applied not only for evaluating a new sale, in this case for Mary O'Sullivan, and within a particular annuity category, but we also can evaluate 1035 exchanges and even buyout offers in the case of VAs using the same methodology. Although that's not a online service available today, but again, the methods and the calculations that we use are applicable for those types of transactions as well. Kim, if you can move over to the next slide. So for the case of the illustrations, whether it's income annuities or index annuities or variable annuities, they all basically follow the same two-step process that Kim showed you. You enter the client's information and the flavor of the type of contract that or guarantee that you may want to look at, and then at that point you can put some filters, if you will, as far as restricting a number of results, if you will, and then what you're going to get is actually a first set of results. In case of the income annuities, it will actually be just a listing of the payout rates specific to the individual, and with those payout rates, you would get the actual illustration as far as step 2 goes in this slide for that income annuity. In the case of index annuities and variable annuities, we're showing a whole lot more than just a column of payout rates as what Kim showed you in that example. Not only are you going to see what the minimum guaranteed payout would be if income in fact was a need for the client, but we're also through a forward-looking model. In the case that we showed you again in the example, in the case of the S&P 500, given the fact that that's the one index that's common across all carriers and products for these contracts, then you have the ability on an apples-to-apples basis really to test the parameters or rules of the insurance contract relative to that need. So what you're doing is we're projecting the upside based upon the particular strategy and index, as well as the rules and parameters for either the death benefit or the income benefit, which will then allow you to rank what the potential upside would be for that product in Mary's case. But we also provided, you saw some other numbers that Kim showed you, and we do a lifetime analysis. And what that is, and I'll explain that in a little more detail in a few minutes, but it's an actuarial present value where we take into account all the movement of the rules and parameters around that around that rider, if you will, over the course of the lifetime for that client, so you can get a general sense of the performance of that contract as they hold that throughout retirement. So I'll explain that a little bit further in detail. So what you're able to do then is to rank and sort these products based upon any of those components. As Kim mentioned, you know, you're doing the qualitative basis. You have a better idea of what Mary's needs are and really where she's going to focus on. And so all we're doing is providing scoring and analysis on each of those individual components so that you can zero into any of those columns to kind of help with your assessment and ultimately your recommendation from the set of products that are available to you. On the second half of this page, what we also be able to do is then we do provide CANNEX hypothetical illustrations. We do that today for VAs. These will be introduced for fixed index annuities this coming summer, where then based upon our own black box, our own capital market assumptions, you can run what you would typically see from carriers as far as an individual sequence of events, if you will, or simulations around moderate market scenario or good market scenario or bad, even 0%. You can take a look at that, and generally we're running that same model through all products on the platform. So again, you can see that on an apples-to-apples basis. When we do work with the carriers, they do provide us with their marketing materials, whether it's advisor brochures or even client brochures. We have the opportunity to load those up, and even if you had your own material relating to those products, that can be loaded in as well. And then, most importantly, and ultimately the essence of the AssessBEST system around compliance, you can document these results and these searches, and you can go back and we retain those searches and these analyses for each user for up to 90 days in our system, and then you can keep a copy of the PDF, which is then can be uploaded back into the AssessBEST system for to keep track for the case for that particular individual. So Kim, if you want to quickly turn to the next page. When I mentioned we use an APV, an actuarial present value, as a scoring, so that not only do you get to view the evaluation, if you will, of the income at the start date, for example. So in Mary's case, in this situation, if she was starting income at 2022, you know, we provide you again what the minimum guaranteed income would be at that point, or what the projected income would be based upon all possible markets looking forward. But then if you really want to get a sense of what value the death benefit is going to provide over, you know, essentially how that's going to evolve over the rest of the retirement, as well as how the performance of the income rider will perform over the course of Mary's retirement. Or if Mary wants both, if she wants to know the lifetime value of both the legacy as well as the income, we provide a total of that number. We use the APV as a score. So if you're looking at the comparison we make is that, you know, if you really want to know what the performance of a car is, sure, you can look at the specs of the car. You can see it's a 3-liter versus 2.8, the curb weight, and certainly there's tools out there and information where you can compare those qualitative specifications of the product, but you really don't have a sense of how it's going to actually perform for that individual. All we're doing is providing something that's akin to a miles per gallon, if you will. What's the performance of the product? So in the same way that ultimately you would kind of do a quick ranking and sorting based upon miles per gallon, we're providing these APV scores so you can do a quick sorting and ranking of those products before you dive into the details of a specific illustration. So that's essentially the value that we're providing, and trying to make it something that, at least at a high level, allows you to kind of sort through not only quite a few products, but all the different combinations that you could actually create with those products as well. And that list can get pretty daunting, if you will. And the APV score provides a quick and easy way to do that sorting and ranking.
That's neat.
And so finally, Kim, maybe on the last slide, and this is something that Kim showed you as she was walking through the example, is that by showing not only the annual income results, but also the lifetime analysis results, or APVs, if you will, then you get a chance to really view what are the competitive trade-offs of each particular product. if you have, as an advisor, really focus on what the minimum guarantee is, and you're really worried about contractual guarantees embedded in these products, then you're going to just focus on, in this case, the first income guarantee column. But if you really want to, if your client wants to, maybe potentially take advantage of the upside of the product in those riders, then you can look at what the potential performance would be, and we provide an average number. And we also show you the average distribution results. So we can also show you in the 75th percentile how high that benefit could actually perform and its possibilities for Mary. You could also see the competitive trade-offs as far as which products maybe have a death benefit that may work better than others, and you can make that comparison. And then finally, with regard to fees, and the point I made as Kim was going through the specific example, is that you also can see the differences between the explicit fees in the FIA. In a variable annuity, it's a little bit different. Those fees values will be much higher because all the fees, whether it's the M&E fee or the rider fee, and even the fund expense, those are explicit. Those come out of the asset value, the account value of the sub accounts, and those are very visible, and you can rank and sort those. In case of the index annuity, some of those fees are embedded in the spread. Some of them are explicit, and but then you can see the trade-off as far as the level of fees and ultimately the minimum guarantees that ultimately are going to be provided in those situations. So it's really a way to kind of view the trade-offs across not only, again, a set of products, but all the possible combinations within those products. So Kim, that was the kind of like the quick tour, if you will, as far as CANNEX.
That was a great tour. It was great. And I just wanted to now just finish up the process as you would be in the AssessBEST system. So what you would be doing over in the CANNEX world is, okay, based on what you've decided and the recommendations you've met, and we go back to, where are we here? Sorry, kids. Okay, just a second. So what would happen over in your AssessBEST world is in the CANNEX world, you'd print this report. You'd make sure you got a PDF based on the parameters that you decided were the most important. You can print it all, or you could print some, and you now have a report. We will be auto feeding this, but you could also download it to your computer and just keep it there. Okay, let's do it. I already did it, but let's just show you. All right, so we're doing it. Yeah, we're replacing it. Stop yelling at me, computer. And you'll be over in the AssessBEST system, and you'd go here, and you'd simply click upload. Now, you can see I've already done it. But now this report is uploaded, it's documented, it's recorded, your work, the analysis work you have done. We talked to an advisor, he said, show your work. This is where you show your work, you upload it, you keep it. We retain that record for the required 6 years under the DOL rule. If the SEC comes out with a longer requirement, we'll accommodate that, but we're going to record and retain that information as long as it's needed, and make sure that if you need it down the road, and we hope you don't, because if you need it, then there's probably a problem. But if you need it, you have it, because we use cybersecurity Rackspace to make sure that it's retained and protected. It's all encrypted, and it's good. So that's how you'd finish out. And let's just talk about pricing, because that's what we said we'd do today. Oops, I'm at the wrong point. All right. So for AssessBEST Pro, which is including the CANNEX feed, an individual license for an individual advisor or a principal or a marketer at an IMO would cost $299 a year, and you get 7 analyses per month for that. Our charter members, your advisors get a $50 discount. You get that for $249. If you're a firm, IMORABD, you get it for $1,500 a year, and you get up to 25 analyses a month. If you go over that on an annualized basis, so we go 25 times 12 and you've popped over, we're just going to charge you a $100 flat rate for the overage, because we do have to pay CANNEX, don't we, Gary?
Yeah, eventually.
So that's what, and I think, because we know what the other pricing is, I know that it's almost 50% off what you're probably paying now or what you would pay if you went to CANNEX Direct. But you're still, if you want to go to CANNEX Direct because you want the autonomy, you're fine. No issues there. So Kelly, let's open it up to questions. Kelly, take yourself off mute.
Okay. We do have a question that came in. Is it possible to solve for premium rather than solve for income?
Sure. I'll assume that's a CANNEX question. In our income annuity service, yes, you can solve for either premium or income. In our first version of the index and variable analyses, right now it's just solving for income. It has been a request that we received, and it will probably be something we'd be looking to introduce in a subsequent release as far as being able to solve for premium. But you can do both on the income annuity side.
So you, in essence, what would happen until we have that enhancement from CANNEX is you would, as we know, Mary needed $600 a year, Mary, and it's $100, excuse me, and $7,200 a year, and you saw some of the numbers, and so she may not need all of that in the income annuity, and so you just go back and is that the right number of zeros? I can't see. Anyway, you would just go back and adjust your premium right now, and that's what we did. Actually, what happened with this real live client is we pulled the premium down to get to that guaranteed income, and we used the remainder to put into another guaranteed annuity that was a deferred annuity for growth and accumulation. So we still protected 200 of our assets. We just used two different products to accommodate two different needs.
And one other thing I'll just add to that is that, again, one of the primary reasons that we've expanded our services into these other annuity categories, really based on demand from our clients over the years, is that ultimately they want, if in fact income is the primary need for the client, now through our platform, you can compare the income performance across those new income categories. And find today is actually fixed index annuities, and even in the case of Mary and her situation, will outperform what you can get from a deferred income annuity. And so really, and so you'd be able to look at specific products that across those different categories if you in fact want to make that type of comparison as well. So again, there's different reasons why Mary may want to buy an income annuity versus a fixed index annuity, but if you're looking at the actual benefit of income, you have the ability of going across those different annuity categories as well.
Okay, that's great. Kelly just came into my office. For some reason, he's not getting the questions. I probably didn't set it up right. So Gary, I am. So let me deal with that. And I'm trying to see it. Okay, the CANNEX system is based on past performance and not a projection. Is that correct?
No, it's based on it's a forward-looking simulation. So what we do is in the case of the index indices, and right now, our first version is with the common market indices, such as the S&P 500. We don't do back testing. We have had requests to provide back testing analysis, so that would be something that we would look to provide in the subsequent release. But our initial release from the fall, we're doing 10,000 simulations based upon how as far as the capital market or the scenarios and the variables that were really linked into how the S&P has performed over its history. We apply that into the Monte Carlo model and on a forward-looking basis, we are looking at 10,000 different possible scenarios in Mary's retirement and coming up with these averages as well as distribution results. So again, similar to how maybe some investment managers may do a Monte Carlo analysis in looking at potential forward-looking projections for investments. So that's what we're doing. Now, what I will also add is for this year, another subsequent release, we've been asked to provide the same type of assessment for just the pure performance of the accumulation or the account